Mercedes and Ferrari stars Lewis Hamilton and Charles Leclerc both had tough weekends in Miami for very different reasons. In classic Helmut Marko style, he could have missed the opportunity to take a dig at the two teams in perfect kick them while they're down form. I know you're going to hate it, but what he says about both teams might be right. Today, we'll have a look at what Marko had to say about Charles Leclerc and whether it was justified. But first of all, let's see what he has to say about Mercedes' lobbying of the FIA. The Mercedes team has picked up a bit of a reputation recently. When the regulations changed last season, there wasn't a single press appearance that didn't include some kind of complaint about porpoising and how it wasn't their problem, it was the FIA's. If they'd put as much energy into improving their car as they had into trying to change the rules, they might be having a more competitive season this year. If you haven't seen the Drive to Survive episode from last season that features Toto Wolff's meltdown at the team principals meeting when everyone tells him to just fix his car, but he says they're all in on a conspiracy against him, then you need to watch it. Or just find the clip somewhere. It is absolute comedy gold. Anyway, the team's complaints about the rules haven't been received well by the rest of the grid, and Helmut Marko seems to think it is these Mercedes complaints that have led to the DRS zones being shortened at each race this season. Red Bull have an absolute rocket ship of a car this year that dominates the rest of the field. While it is fast in race trim, it's actually its overtaking capabilities that are perhaps most impressive. Not that we've seen them in use much this season. When the RB19 opens its DRS, it has a massive advantage over the car ahead, even if they themselves have DRS. Red Bull have worked out a way to stall the airflow over their beam wing and diffuser when they have the DRS open, massively improving the amount of drag reduction they receive. The FIA have been shortening the DRS zones at races this season, apparently due to their data from last year, saying it was too easy to overtake in DRS zones. The drivers have not been happy with the change, and in Baku, the lack of overtaking was blamed on a shortened DRS zone. There were the exact same number of overtakes in 2022 as there were in 2023 though, so it's up for debate whether it actually made much of a difference. In Miami, even with the DRS zone shortened, there was plenty of overtaking and on-track action, and every DRS zone made overtaking easier, but not too easy. Overtaking has always been difficult, but especially when the DRS zones are shortened, and we know why that happens, Marko said. Asked if he believed the changes were aimed at curbing Red Bull's advantage, Marko replied, "Exactly. We have to stop intervening with these kinds of manipulative tricks. It is bizarre that Mercedes, of all teams, is moaning. For years, Mercedes had the superior engine, and they were much farther ahead of the competition than we are now. And then, when you deliver a flop of a car 2 years in a row, you might be wise to focus on that." I've not heard anyone from the Mercedes team complaining about the DRS zones being too long. I know they have a reputation, but this time, Marko seems to be complaining about nothing. In reality, George Russell has actually been one of the most vocal drivers against the shortening of the DRS zones. Despite the Brits' complaints, Mercedes did show some pace in a straight line in Miami, proving that they're making progress with the W14. Hamilton's average top speed per lap was 342 km per hour, the second highest in the Grand Prix. He also maxed out at 348 km per hour, the third fastest of any driver at the race. He put that straight line speed to work as well, moving from 13th to 6th in the race. So what did Marko have to say about Charles Leclerc? Well, Marko took the chance to take a dig at the Ferrari driver for his bad crash in qualifying on Saturday. That crash came after he went off at the exact same corner the day before, forcing his team to work long hours 2 days in a row to try and fix his car. His qualifying crash meant that Max Verstappen didn't get a chance to set a representative time in Q3, having aborted his first lap of the session after a number of errors early on. Speaking to Sky Deutschland, the Red Bull Motorsport advisor said, "To put it sarcastically, you can't drive out behind Leclerc. It was extremely unfortunate for Max," he added. "He went a little far in the first run, and then we should have come out of the pits earlier. We would have had the speed. At least the first 2 rows would have been safe. But it's a learning phase. We wanted to concentrate completely on the last run and get the best out of it. The later you go out, the better the track will be. But in this case, it wasn't that right decision." Marko's comments were definitely tongue-in-cheek, but after Leclerc crashed during the sprint shootout in Baku, his 2 trips into the wall in Miami brought his record to 3 crashes in 8 days. Not good enough for a driver who claims to have title aspirations. Certainly not good enough for someone that Ferrari thinks can win them a first title in almost 2 decades. Leclerc explained on Saturday that he took a risk with the setup, and although he remains convinced that opting for a difficult setup was the best way to extract the maximum from his Ferrari SF23, he may have gone too far with that direction. He acknowledged that he was being hard on himself after his mistake, and conveyed his disappointment to crash out in qualifying. "For sure, I'm very disappointed with myself," he said. "Same mistake as Friday in the same corner. I also know that qualifying is my strong point, and obviously I'm taking more risk. In Q3, that pays off 9 times out of 10. But obviously, this is the weekend where twice I put it in the wall, and this is just not the level where I want to be. I obviously need to, in those weekends especially, just manage it differently in Q3. But at the end, it's like this." There wasn't really any defense for Charles in Miami. His Friday mistake could maybe be forgiven as it didn't have an impact on Ferrari's overall weekend, but repeating the error in Q3 was completely unacceptable. He didn't even try to blame the car either, a surprise considering his disappointment with the SF23 Ferrari made for this year. The team even said the shunt was not triggered by the inherent handling of the car. Ferrari reckons a revised floor for Miami has instead made the SF23 more benign. The front and mid-floor and diffuser geometry have been tweaked just ahead of the rear wheels to control airflow to the diffuser. The impact has been described as powerful. Leclerc's driving coach, Jock Clear, explained, "It gives the driver a more consistent balance through medium speed, high speed, low speed, and of course braking and entry and then exit. Maybe what happened yesterday with Charles is actually a testament to that. He was really going for it in those high-speed turns 4 to 6 curves." Marko wasn't just rubbing salt into Leclerc's wounds with his jab about going after him in qualifying. He was actually kicking an injured man when he was down. Charles injured his neck after crashing twice in 2 days. "I'm not in the best shape physically today," he said on the Sunday. "I have my neck completely blocked, but I'll do everything to make a good race." While Mercedes cars seemed to improve in Miami, their top speed and Hamilton's impressive race from 13th to 6th was evidence of that. Ferrari seemed to go nowhere, despite the upgrade to the floor. Leclerc started only 7th after his crash in qualifying, and in a race not impacted by safety cars, he finished in the same position, 52.9 seconds behind winner Red Bull's Max Verstappen. His Ferrari teammate Carlos Sainz fared little better on his run to 5th from 3rd on the grid, having overcome a 5-second penalty for speeding in the pit lane that in the end had no effect on his position. Leclerc said it was hard to predict the behavior of the car, not just over a stint but even within a lap. "I was speaking just now with Carlos, and what we're lacking is consistency from the car," he said when asked about his difficult afternoon. "Not even from corner to corner, just in the same corner, I can have huge oversteery balance and then a huge understeery balance, and our car is so wind affected. This year we have a car that is much more wind sensitive, and we are struggling much more with that, so there's a lot of work going on with that." Ferrari have a week off now to try and work something out before heading to their home race at Imola. The Tifosi will be out in force for the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix, but unless the Scuderia find something in the next week, they may have to witness another disappointing weekend. Surely it can't be worse than last year though, right? Carlos Sainz didn't even finish a lap, and Charles Leclerc made a terrible unforced error while driving in 3rd place that ruined his race. He does like to make a mistake, doesn't he? What do you think of Helmut Marko's comments? And will Ferrari be able to show some improvement in 2 weeks' time? Let us know your thoughts in the comments down below, and until next time, drive safe and bye for now.